In this exercise, we'll be placing an OAM animated file, typically created with Adobe Animate or Adobe Edge Animate, exported as an OAM file, which can be applied inside of Muse, and we can, to some extent, control the animation. And that animation is actually controlled through our scroll effects. So I've got a finished example here with two different animations of butterflies on a backdrop, just an image that I put in my browser fill. And I'll just show you this now, and then we'll talk about how it works. Let's go to File, Preview Page in Browser. So I will grab the scroller, and it seems apparently they are transparent to start off. And I'll drag this sort of at a medium pace. And you can see that they are both flapping their wings, but one's staying in the same spot and the other one's kind of flying across the screen. And then when I stop, they seem to stop here. And maybe I have to start that over a bit again. And I can go back and forth. But basically the wings flapping is part of the built-in animation of the file. And for the left one, I just created a motion scroll effect to move it across the screen. Alright, so let's go in and check the settings on these. Also, it's subtle here. When I scroll slower, the wings on the right butterfly, looks like the left one just broke there. Let me go back to the beginning. Beat at a speed depending on how fast I'm scrolling. If I scroll fast, they beat fast. Where the ones on the right are going at a constant speed, even though it seems to glitch out a little here in my demo. So that's something we can control as well with the scroll, is the speed of the actual animation. Alright, so let's just drag this back to the top, and we'll go over to Muse and check the settings. Alright, so the one on the right, which is not moving, obviously has no motion attached to it. And the reason it's not moving is because it's pinned to the top center in this left-hand pin area. So that's pinned, that's not going to move. And again, we'll go to the scroll effects. And we do have the animation turned on. And the trigger is flush with the top. This page, the header is flush with the top of the browser, which would make it 0 pixels. And between the two options, we have it set to advance 1 second every 200 pixels. So 1 second's worth of animation on the timeline within the animation will occur every 200 pixels. The other one over here, oh actually let me just check the opacity, because it did start as a transparent element. And as you see here, the first fade position is set to 0%, and it's also set at the 0 point on the horizontal, or the vertical rather, which is in sync with the trigger. In other words, this will animate from here on right away when we start to scroll. And it slowly increases to 100% opacity across the first 100 pixels. And then it will stay until we go backwards in our scroll. So that's the opacity on that. Now let's go take a look at the left one. And the opacity on that is set to the same set of parameters here. And if we go to the animation, the only difference really is that this one is set to autoplay. And that's where you saw the difference in the wing speed. When it's set to autoplay, the wings flap at their constant rate within their own animation. Whereas advanced every 1 second, they will flap according to the speed of the user dragging the browser bar or using the scroll wheel. So those are the effects there. So I'll quickly show you how I built this. We'll go out, start a new page here. And I'll just add to this, and we'll call it Scroll Animation. Okay, and I'll double click on there. And the first thing I'll do is I'll stretch my page to a long page. And I'll get it up above 2000 here. So I'm around the 2500 mark. And I'll throw in that browser fill. I'll use Add Image. And I'll use the Valley, Open. And I think I'll just leave it set to Tile. Okay, so that's good for now. That's just my decoration. Now we'll place those OAM files. Now, they are in your Assets folder in a previous download, the one that came with the parallax scrolling. So I'll go look for those. Place. And in here, in butterfly, it's the OAM file that we want. I click open there, and I just drop this one here. And from there, I believe I can duplicate. I'm just going to hold my option on my Mac, would be Alt on the PC. And we'll throw one here and one here. Alright, so those are just animated files. Let me run this now and you'll see what happens. They just have their built-in animation, and I haven't built in any movement or anything, but they do have the animation already going. So it's pretty cool that I can put animated elements in here. And it looks like there's a little glitch there. I'm not sure why. If I reload, there we go. Anyhow, let's go back. I'll just close that. And go back here, and I'll start to attach some scroll effects. So we'll go to the right one first. That one we didn't want to move. So right away I'm going to pin it to the top center here, and now it's not going to move. Let me set some scroll effects here, and we'll turn on animation. And we want this to start right away, so I'll just drag this to the top. And this one happens to have that default 36 pixels from the top of the browser to the top of the page, so that leaves this at -36. And we'll advance this one every second's worth of animation at 200 pixels in the scroll. And we'll also set the opacity while we're here. So I'll turn on opacity. And for this one, I think I'll set to the -36. Starts at 0, and we want it to be at 0 even when it hits the trigger. But when it hits, let's say 100 pixels down, we set it to 100. It's hard to see, but that little slider's right there. And I could manually grab it too, and you can see it changing in the properties window there. But if I needed it to be exactly 100 and I couldn't achieve it that way, I would just highlight this and type it in. So the way we have it now is that when I scroll down 100 pixels, this will go from transparent to translucent, or to opaque. And the butterfly wings will flap according to the speed of my scroll. Let's save this and try that. And this one over here should just stay put, but it will scroll out as I scroll. At least I would expect it to. Okay. Now this one's transparent when we start, but as I scroll down, you see the other one's scrolling out of the screen, but this one's locked in place. Now I just have my background on tile, so it just repeats right now. But there you have your butterfly stuck in place, and the butterfly wings flapping is based on the speed of my scrolling. Okay, so let's just go back here, and we'll set the other one. So highlight that, turn on the animation. Again, we'll bring this flush with the top, and it does snap. And this one we'll set to autoplay, therefore the wings will flap at a constant speed. We'll also set up the opacity to match the other one. So we'll set this first fade position to -36, which just happens to be the top of the browser here. The trigger is also at the top of the browser. I'll set that to 0. So it starts at 0, and it progresses to 100% opacity once it reaches 100 pixels below the top of the browser. So I've set it down to 100 pixels, 100% opacity. Oh yeah, I want to add some movement to this one. So let's go over to the Motion tab. Now initial will be 0, 0, which kind of is moot in this situation, but I'll formalize it anyway. Final, I think I'm going to go with some odd speeds here, and by varying these speeds, it will affect the direction. So let me try 0.2, which is pretty slow. I'm actually going to set that to a downward motion, and then moving to the right, I'll try it at 0.8. So both going slower than the browser scroll, but it's going to move farther to the right than it will to the bottom. So you just play with those different ratios, and you can control the direction. So let's just save this, and we'll give this a preview in the browser. Okay, so they should be invisible in the air, and as I scroll down, they become visible. And then the one flies across, and the other one does not. And the one flying across has its wings flapping at a constant speed, unless of course I break it here. And the other one, the wings flap according to the speed of the scroll. So I'd like you to build one of these as well as your slideshow assignment.